Well, hello everyone. Welcome back to another live hangout here at Voice Essentials. And a big hello to everyone that's already in the chat, and some active hellos and what have you going on. To let you know, Linda is not with us today. I'm flying solo. It could be a wild ride. The show really isn't the same without her, but she is doing a family-related thing today, and as she should, family first. And I'm sure today we'll get by without her. We as best we can. Let's put it that way. We have to get on without her, because today we're doing a mini topic, and I know that Linda will watch the show again in the next couple of days when she, does the time codes for us, and so that will be good. Today we're looking at the topic of belt, singing with healthy, sustainable volume. We will get to that in a moment. And in accordance with the topic, we've got today's poll question. Asks, when you first tried belting, what was the biggest challenge you faced? And we've already had 10 votes in there. We'll finish the poll at the end of the mini topic. For those of you who have not joined us before, the mini topics are kind of like little half an hour. They often go for half an hour. My intention was always for them to be a lot shorter than that, but they do tend to go about 30 minutes. It's kind of like a webinar, if you will, where we really unpack a particular topic from a very educational standpoint. That is what we do here at Voice Essentials. We are a Learn to Sing channel and a Learn to Sing community of singers. And so we're going to look at the topic of belt. And so if you've never even heard that term before, well, today's your day. We're going to look at that. And so make sure you participate in the poll and let me know, what is the biggest challenge you've faced in delivering volume. Dean, I can see your, and Rebecca, I saw that you're saying, you'll miss Linda. We all miss Linda. So I'm going to, as you, in flying solo, I'm doing everything, as in, I won't be able to really watch the chat in the whole way through, and so if something untowards happens in the chat, we don't actually. What I might do is I might, if it's okay, Dean and Rebecca, I'm going to make you both moderators. I'm going to make you and Rebecca just for today, moderators, just to keep the chat safe. Is that okay? If you don't want that responsibility, you just got it. We're a community. We have to work together, and so I hope that's okay with you both, that I've just done that. I've just tapped. You've just been deputized. Okay, Dean's saying okay. What about Rebecca? Is Rebecca run for the hills? Okay, so Dean's okay there as a. I'm watching the chat. Rebecca, let me know if you would prefer not to be seen. Anyway, for the two of you, the role of a moderator is just to keep the chat clean. We have historically had trolls jump into the chat and try to, so if anything like that happens, just delete it, get rid of it, because we don't want that kind of behavior here. Two more things before we get into the mini topic. Firstly, next week we have Zach Bradford, friend of the channel. Rebecca has said okay. She's okay with being good. Thank you, Rebecca. We've got Zach here next week, special guest. Going to be awesome. We're going to be talking about we're not really going to be talking about New Year's resolutions as in how to make them, but more so how do you get, what sort of things do you have to do to make those New Year's resolutions become habit, sticky practice? How do we do that? Important at this time of the year, to be unpacking that and to really set your goals going forward for the rest of the year. You don't want your enthusiasm and energies just to die out by the end of February. Okay, so we're going to look at that next week with Zach. And also the week after that, we are going to be doing our first inaugural live reaction/analysis video. Live Hangout is a part of it. So I do reaction videos. Many of you watch those. And now they're more analysis, aren't they? Analysis videos. We are going to be doing those as a part of the live show. We're going to be doing analysis of community members' videos. And so certainly we're not going to be looking at it through the frame, the lens of we're expecting, highly polished, professionally produced singing or video, but it's going to be our community, and I'm going to be just giving some feedback, some educational insights into what that is. I've already had for you to participate. If you'd like to participate, you must be a member of the Facebook community group. So certainly jump over to Voice Essentials community on Facebook, and you can join a part of that, and you can let me know if you'd like to be a participant. And I've just put a post on there today where people can nominate themselves, and so in 2 weeks' time we'll do that for the first time. And we'll see how it goes from a technical standpoint. I'm hoping it works really well. I really am. I'm hoping it will be highly beneficial to us as a community and to us as learners of voice. So fingers crossed. fingers crossed. I really do want it to go well. How are we going in the chat, everyone? Rebecca's saying we have a great group of people here. We most certainly do. And Laura's saying she thinks, I think you're referring, Laura, to the live analysis videos. I think it's a great idea. I'm really hoping it will be, and I'm hoping that. But when you try something new, you kind of never know how it's actually going to go. How many people have we got We've had one more vote. So we'll come back to that poll question later. Let's dive in to our what's it called? Webinar. And today we're talking about healthy belt. And there is a big difference between healthy belt and unhealthy belt. And when I'm talking about unhealthy belt, I'll usually refer to it as a yell function. We might talk a bit more about that as we go along. And so let's dive in firstly, because there'll be people watching this video who might go, well, what is it? And why is it important? Why is belting valuable? Well, it's partly because it is a high demand skill in PCM, popular culture musics. Some of you may be familiar with the term CCM, contemporary commercial musics, but I prefer the term PCM. That aside, and so we do see it employed amongst that group. Here's a little history lesson. Music belt was originally called Broadway belt, and it originated amongst music theatre singers who were originally vaudevillian performers of the 1920s, 1930s. It was very much at a time when music theatre was very much the poor man's opera. And it was done in very, very less refined event spaces than opera houses, where the room's engineered to carry the voice. Music theatre was being done in very low-key venues. The technology of microphones, electronic amplification had been invented, but it was relatively primitive, very expensive, mostly being used in the military, and those sorts of spaces. Not music theatre company weren't really using it. And so these singers who had to get their voices from stage to back stall in rooms not designed to carry the voice, they're doing this without microphones, and they were doing it up to 14 times a week. This was a big, big load on the voice. And so this thing called Broadway belt came about. We no longer just refer to it as Broadway belt because we use it in rock, pop, the methodology of belt, rock, pop, jazz, indie folk, R&B, any genre that's going to require healthy, sustainable, clean volume is going to really benefit from the employment of belt. And it's used to create a very powerful emotional connection with audiences. There's something about big, loud singing, and more often than not, big, loud singing that is done at the upper end of someone's range. It sounds impressive. It moves us and has a sense of connection with us as an audience. But it is costing the singer and costs the singer significantly. And it is essential for many contemporary music theatre styles, as we just said. There is a risk of unhealthy belt if your voice is overloaded. And actually, to be very very simple about it, most untrained voices will try to create volume through a yell function. When I say yell function, I'm not talking simply about yelling. I am talking about a function of yell, and that has, well, this is almost like a spoiler alert for where we're going to head in a moment, but it has too much pressure, too much effort, very little focus, and it's very high cost to the voice. And that's going to lead to strain, fatigue, and potential vocal injury. Excuse me. I've been teaching all day already, and my voice is still getting back into the year. And so we've got this sense in which we have to find a better way, yeah? And, excuse me, that better way, the unhealthy technique of a yell function is going to come through poor technique, and it can lead to that long-term damage. Let me grab some water. While I'm at it, I might just have a quick look at the how are we going with the? We've had one more vote in the poll, which is cool. Okay, back to the webinar. And so the goal here is to learn safe techniques for power and longevity. This is the whole point, is to learn safe techniques for power and longevity. You don't just want to be able to, sing loud and high for one song. And blow your voice out, which we sadly all too often see on big, TV talent shows and what have you. And these young singers get up and scream at the top of their lungs, and it can even sound impressive, but it's not sustainable. One of the key words here is sustainable, synonymous with this word longevity. There are three important pillars of healthy belting, the technique of belt. First of all, and you know, I ummed and ahed over the use of this term because I'm not a big fan of the word support, but support is controlled airflow is the key. We want to have a sense in which we are managing our air in an efficient manner that is driven by rectus abdominis, transverse abdominis, oblique activation that is managing a really smooth, for the want of a better word, managed recoil, passive recoil of the diaphragm, so that you are not creating too much pressure directly underneath the vocal folds. So I want you to be thinking about breath like fuel. Breath fuels the voice. And it is true to say if there's too much fuel, you're going to flood the engine. And if there's too little, then in the case of the voice, it'll really struggle to manage, and you'll actually get the very one of the very same things you'll get with too much pressure happens with too little, and that is everything just starts to lock up. It's trying to manage with what it doesn't have, the lack of air pressure. And so we're looking for that really steady, managed release of air, and that's going to help manage that phonatory threshold pressure, that sense in which we've got this really even, balanced flow. We are also going to require the resonance of twang to be a key ingredient of belt. So twang is that bright, focused sound that boosts volume without force. You'll often, in my courses online and with my learning materials, the Voice Essentials audio tracks and the PDFs, I always refer to twang as a clear, focused resonance. And that's what belt is. Belt is a resonance strategy. In fact, let's say twang is a resonance strategy and belt is just twang on steroids. And it is this sense in which you are able to create volume without having to drive the voice. There is this idea of reflecting that it's not effort, which we talked about with yell, but it is highly energized. And so you want to be able to identify and recognize the difference. And someone who is belting well, it will be high energy, but it will have a sense in which visually and audibly, you get a sense in which there's a level of ease to it. It's not forced, it's not effortful. And you can, with twang, you can use things like nya, nya, nya. I like the exercise, and you can do a lot of twang work in the Voice Essentials program with exercises like sing, and I've got the other one there, sing, exercising the aryepiglottic sphincter to form that resonant structure of the laryngopharynx and to develop that resonance that you can then supercharge for your belt. And the idea of this balance, and this is kind of almost a continuation of the first point, and that is we are ultimately looking to avoid overcompression. It isn't shouting. Like we said, it's not a yell. Yeah, you don't want to have too much pressure. You must have this consistent flow of air. And breath management is so key to good belt. It really is. It's right up there. And it's almost counterintuitive to think of it that good belt for most people is going to be certainly in the initial stages of working on it and thinking about it, is it's counterintuitive because it's less air than what they would normally be driving through a yell function. And this is all about keeping the larynx flexible and avoiding the push, because if we have too much pressure, your larynx is going to valve against that. It's going to brace, and we're going to lose that free movement of the larynx. And in doing so, it's just going to all lock up, and then you're forcing air through this really valved up mechanism. You can see where the strain is going to come from, can't you? Then we do have some common problems with some fixes that I want to sort of lay out for you. If you are feeling tight and strained, go to some SOVTs, straw phonation, lip bubbles, tongue trills, NGs and Ms. They're all within that framework of SOVTs. And go looking for the balance of air that you require to create that even flow. Doing straw phonation into a bottle with got some water in it, you can certainly do that sense of flow and get that consistency of airflow going into that, and I think you'll find that really, really helpful. If you're losing power, then it's obviously you've got to look at your twang and those sorts of things. And then if you're cracking or flipping, it's because as you're approaching that transition, there's too much pressure. You've got to move. I always say to students is when they're working on their transitions between registers, approach that moment between transitions where you feel like you want a gear shift. Don't push through it. Slow down to it like you would a speed bump in a car. Slow down, move over it, and then accelerate out. Don't. I'm teaching my daughter to drive, and we went over a speed hump the other day. Suffice to say, we hit it a little harder than I would have liked us to. And we felt it as a result, as opposed to moving through it, gliding through it. And you can use things like sirens. Again, all of these activities are included in the Voice Essentials program. And finally, if you're struggling with breath, then you might like to think about practicing speech-like onsets to avoid overblowing air. And again, just breaking it down just to pure breath activity, so that you can get a real handle on what you are doing with your flow of air. I know that you will find online people that advocate for the idea that when it comes to breath, we should just sort of let it do its own natural thing. I personally, and this is my 30th year of teaching, I'm yet to meet anyone who naturally breathes for singing intuitively well. It tends to be something that, in my observation, that you have to learn to do. And it's because the manner in which we activate the voice for singing, in this case for belt, you have to be very intentional in what you're doing. It's very different to your everyday natural, what's referred to as tidal breathing. And so being in, I know classically you would have heard people saying, yes, breathing is so important in singing. And so few teachers then go on to, intentionally teach it. I want to encourage you to actively develop your breath, and it will take time. Learning to breathe takes time. So starting now and starting that process is a good thing. So here are the key takeaways. Belting isn't about volume. It's about balance. And I always say that in my lessons here with my private students. I'll always start off the discussion about belt by saying, today we're going to be talking about volume. and then we talk about the difference between yell and belt. But I then finish that session by saying, actually, don't worry about aiming to achieve volume. Achieve balance, and the volume will come. And so I want you to focus in on balance. It's the balance of support, placement, that makes it sustainable. Again, sustainable is the key word. You want to be able to do it again and again and again, not just in one set, not just in one night, but for the rest of your life as a singer. And then use targeted exercises to fix the specific belting challenges that you may have, and be intentional about it. I wonder what our let's come back to our because I'm about to end the poll. If you haven't yet answered the poll, I want to encourage you to do that, because I am about to end it and reveal the votes. Well, I just thought we're up to 15 very quickly. Any more votes? Any more votes coming in? Any more? Counting down, 3, 2, 1. And here are the results, everyone. And as you can see, the question directly related to what we talked through, and that is that the controlling of the breath is a big thing for 5 of you. Finding the right resonance, the twang aspect of it, getting that resonance strategy was a big thing. You know, we're all going to find different parts of this challenging, but I want to encourage you to be intentional in your process. I'm reading, and we might do a chat about this in future, but I'm currently reading Atomic Habits. Many of you will have read the book. I think it's one of those international bestsellers. And, you know, I'm very early in the book, so I'm sure there's more to come. But a lot of the common sense strategy that the author is advocating would boil down to, so far from what I've read, it's consistency. It's just being consistent. It's doing the work not just once or twice, but 3, 4, 5, keep counting times. And I think that'll be a big part of what we talk about next week too with Zach, with the practice, sticky practice. So that would be good for us to look at. I'm going to jump in and answer some questions now, everyone. For those of you who have never been here before, we normally have our friend, she's our global friend Linda. She's not with us today. She would normally be taking your questions and putting them into a Word document for me that I then read off and quickly go through and find. I can see Jimmy James Entertainment and has asked a question, and I'm just going to go to it to start with. So Jimmy James, give me a second here and I'll grab your questions because this is a good question to ask. So Jimmy James is asking, any tips for someone suffering with silent acid reflux? Yes, Jimmy. Firstly, it is a thing for singers. It's a big thing. It's something that I personally have learnt to manage relatively well over the past number of years. It's something that I had to get on top of with prescribed medication to start. And then once I got a handle on it, now I manage it through diet, lifestyle, and also a preemptive strike using the product Gaviscon. And in fact, on Tuesday, it was a Friday night, I had a really yummy Penang curry, and with a nice glass of Pinot Gris, and so quite acidic, and it was Thai hot. It was quite spicy, and I knew that I would be singing at my local church on the Sunday, and so I needed to make sure that I didn't give any opportunity for reflux to get a hold. And so before I went to bed, after that main meal, I made sure I took some Gaviscon so that while I was sleeping, I wasn't going to suffer poorly from laryngopharyngeal reflux. And so I was preemptive in that, and, it worked, as it does. Now, there are times when my reflux will actually, will flare up, and I will have to, for me, it's often from stress. And so I'll have to be proactive with the Gaviscon at those times as well. And so now I would take Gaviscon maybe at the most once a week. And it's generally before I go to bed. I like to take it half an hour before I go to bed, because it is, for me, the LPR, the laryngeal pharyngeal reflux, has a particular impact for me while I sleep. And the nuance of your reflux is going to be, you're going to have to work through that. And I do encourage you to always work through this in discussion with your medical, your trusted healthcare professional. I am not a medical doctor, and so I'm certainly not wanting to give you medical advice in this. But as far as your voice goes, you want to really get on top of it, and so in controlling it with diet, as I said before, I do steer clear in general of foods and beverages that are going, like carbonated beverages, that are going to set that reflux off. But every now and then I do allow myself a Penang curry or a roasted duck red curry. Oh, I love Thai curries, just love them, but they're so spicy. But anyway, so pay attention to your diet, and then also pay attention to your physical fitness. If you're carrying weight and that's an issue for you, then you want to get on top of that. All of these things will contribute negatively to reflux. So Jimmy James, entertainments. I hope that's helpful. Have we got any other questions here? Oh, Jimmy James has actually just said, let me just go to here. So Jimmy James has said, I'm on meds now and Gaviscon. I can still sing, but recovery is bad. I steam all the time. Do really need to watch my diet, though. Not easy. Thanks for that. It isn't easy, Jimmy. Can I suggest to you, and again, you need to do this in consultation with your healthcare professional. The ultimate aim is to get off the meds. Yeah, and I'm not advocating against them. As I said, I use them to really get it under control, and then to manage it thereafter with Gaviscon. So I hope you can work towards that. Doing some steaming, I think, is a really good thing. You will find, because ultimately the challenge you're finding at the level of the larynx is almost certainly inflammation of the vocal folds and arytenoid. And so what I want to encourage you to do is use some SOVT work to help rehabilitate and assist with reducing that sense of inflammation through the vibratory massaging action of the SOVT. I think you'll find that to be helpful. I'm just looking up here. Oh, here's a question from Oh Night Dreams, who is a new name to me. Oh Night Dreams, welcome to the channel. How do I know my vocals is good enough? All songs are pretty well produced these days. How do I know that I've done most I could before a production? That's an interesting. How do I respond to you? It is very difficult. Oh Night Dreams, it's very difficult. The level that is expected is very high, and for example, I currently regularly, when I'm playing at my church, it's just me and playing on guitar and singing, and I then make those into videos for my personal channel, not Voice Essentials, but on my personal channel. And I take recordings, produce those, and make little videos out of them. And I'm very aware that whilst I'm kind of semi-happy with the capture of the live vocal, the quality of my guitar, well, the quality of my guitar playing is an issue, but also the manner in which I'm capturing it and post-producing the guitar is also an issue. And I'm cognizant of the fact that the quality is really not where I want it to be, and that in turn will be restricting its viability as something that people would want to listen to. And so I'm going about learning. In fact, there's that for me right now. It's a piece of equipment that I need to put onto my pedal board for my guitar so that I can send a signal. I hope this isn't too much information in the wrong direction, Oh Night Dreams, but for me, I've got to send a pre-effect signal to my recording device, which is a Zoom H6, so that I don't have the live guitar effect, which is coming from my line 6 effects pedal into the recording. Does that make sense? So that, anyway, but you can see how complex it gets, right? Just to be able to arrive at something that I could then effectively produce after. Once upon a time, when I first started doing Voice Essentials videos, the entrance level of expected quality of the videos that we produce, whether it be the pre-recorded, the live, or people uploading recordings of themselves, performing a song in their bedroom. 10 years ago, that's how long I've been doing this. In fact, I think I've been on YouTube for 12 years. It was significantly lower than what is expected now. It is true, Oh Night Dreams, that the quality expectation, it's almost broadcast, and if you're not at that level, and I'm not talking about shorts now, I'm talking specifically about long form video. If it's not at that broadcast level, it's almost like you're dismissed just offhand, and so you do, if doing production is something that you want to do and get your voice ready for that, you do have to be aiming for a really high standard. And that's not something that you're going to, realize in a year or two. It's going to take time. And I can tell you, I've been doing this a long time, and I'm still, literally, every video I do, I learn something new. And you might go, that can't be he's done thousands. No, I literally, every video there is, because it's an ever-evolving space. For your voice is an ever-evolving space. And so you are going to need to, really workshop that. Night Dreams is saying, you have a personal channel. Yeah, I do. It's not really something that I use it sometimes to upload recording videos that I do here in the studio that I can then share into the Voice Essentials community as myself, more so than, you know, Dr. Dan here on the channel. You're more than welcome to go over and have a look at it. You're looking for the Daniel K Project, I think I called it. And you can certainly go and have a look. But just, you know, when you see it, recognize that I know I am a work in progress. I am learning. And I think the moment you feel like you've arrived, you probably have so much further to go. So when you listen to my recordings, and a lot of them are, you know, in fact, I think all of them are like one take recordings, work in progress. Oh Night Dreams. Laura says here, oh, hang on a second, make sure I want to do this, because if I don't, it'll click through, and I don't want to do that. So Laura is saying she uses a green screen quite a bit, and reverb and compression, and there's a lot to it, isn't there, Laura? There is a lot to it, and the quality of what you are able to produce definitely does not come down to the quality of your gear, but the quality of your gear makes a difference to what you are able to produce. So as I said, back in the day, it was enough for you to record yourself onto your smartphone and zip it up to YouTube. You can still do that, but what an audience expects to hear is so much more now, and that can then certainly lead to, you know, and remember, I've been teasing you all for the last couple of weeks about a special guest we're going to have. In fact, we'll be having him, there's another hint, in 3 weeks. We are going to be talking about, and here's a big hint, massive hint, we're going to be deep diving into the subject of auto-tune and pitch correction. Not saying any more. But that is also, you know, and so stick around, by the way. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, make sure you subscribe for that conversation alone. And that's it's such a big thing, you know. It's such that aspect of perfection that is required, that the vast majority of people don't have access to even just the software to achieve that, let alone the know-how of how to use it. And so there's all of that. None of this, I've just seen the time, we need to bring this to a close. None of this should be a discouragement to you in your use of, your idea of wanting to present and form a little, present your voice, certainly on Voice Essentials, because we don't have a prerequisite of that in the community. Out in the wider world of YouTube, I think that's an issue. But within us, with us as a community, we encourage you to develop your skills in all facets of doing these productions for yourself. But we're certainly not going to expect you to have it at, production broadcast level before you upload to the community. So don't hear what we're talking about as, oh, is that the starting place I need to have, the entrance point for what not at all. Here we're more concerned about your voice and the development of your voice and your performance and those sorts of things. So, and we can look at that in a couple of weeks too when we do our first analysis video. we are going to call it a day. I want to say a special thank you to Rebecca and Dean, who I deputized to be in the chat. I appreciate you guys jumping in there and keeping the chat nice and healthy and clean. And I didn't these days. We haven't. I don't think we've had a troll hit us for a little while, but it would just happen to be the one day when Linda's not here that we do. I hope you've enjoyed our look at belt today. Again, can I tell you, just remind you, because we've got a few new people in the chat, and for those of you who are listening to this as a replay, which most of you do, remember that I edit the webinar, the mini topic videos down, and so when you subscribe to the channel and then become a member, for example, Dean is a member of the channel, then what happens is, and for a small monthly fee, you get exclusive access to fully edited educational mini topics. So on Wednesday, I will be taking this particular video that we did today, just the discussion about what do we talk about? Belt. And I'll be editing it down, and members, in this case Dean, will be receiving exclusive access to that edited, and there's heaps of them there. So I want to encourage you to become a member and support the channel, and that would be much appreciated. Once again, thank you very much for a great hangout. I hope you have a great week, and I very much look forward to seeing you in the next not vocal analysis, next Voice Essentials live hangout. Oh dear. See you again soon. I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.